The Houston Texans are currently operating under a microscope as the front office continues to reshape the roster with aggressive precision. We are seeing a flurry of activity that has the entire AFC South questioning the ceiling of this team. From the tactical implications of the latest offensive line acquisitions to the ongoing evaluations of our own free agents, things are moving fast at the facility. Today, we are breaking down the hidden risks of a new arrival, ranking the impact of recent moves, and identifying who might stay. Let's get into it.
The decision to bring Braden Smith into the Houston Texans fold has sent shockwaves through the organization, and while on paper it appears to be a move designed to bolster the trenches, there is a nuanced layer of risk that warrants a closer look. When you examine the offensive scheme that we run, the integration of a veteran like Braden Smith requires more than just raw talent. It requires a synchronization with the existing blocking assignments that are notoriously complex under our current offensive philosophy. The primary concern among those inside the building is not his physical ability, which remains elite, but rather the adaptability to our specific zone blocking concepts that favor lateral movement over pure power. We have seen instances in the past where high-priced veterans struggle to pivot when the rhythm of the line is disrupted, and the financial allocation here is significant enough that it limits our flexibility in other areas of the roster. Salary cap management is the hallmark of a winning franchise, and Howie Roseman-style fiscal discipline is something we have strived to emulate. By committing a substantial portion of our resources to Braden Smith, the front office has effectively signaled an all-in mentality for the upcoming season, leaving little room for error should injury or performance regression occur. Furthermore, from a scouting perspective, the transition from his previous system to our offensive line coach's vision represents a high-stakes gamble. If he cannot anchor the right side effectively, the pressure on our young quarterback becomes immense, potentially negating the developmental progress we saw last year. We are looking at a scenario where the team is betting heavily on scheme fit over historical production, a classic move that either pays massive dividends or creates a bottleneck in our offensive production. The chemistry of an offensive line is fragile. Introducing a new personality and a new set of physical habits into that unit often takes more time than the typical offseason allows. Fans should be prepared for a potential learning curve that might look ugly in the first few weeks of the season, even if the long-term payoff is exactly what the coaching staff envisions. It is a calculated risk, certainly, but one that defines the trajectory of this entire campaign. Every snap he takes will be analyzed to see if he can harmonize with the rest of the unit, and the stakes could not be higher for a team looking to cement its status as a true championship contender. It is a fascinating study in roster construction and the eternal tug-of-war between veteran security and developmental upside. But that is not the only situation developing right now as we look at the broader picture.
If you are enjoying this deep dive into the Texans roster moves, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for daily updates. We love hearing your take, so drop a comment below. When we look at the overall body of work put together by Nick Caserio this offseason, we are seeing a clear vision of how he wants this team to look in September. The ranking of these moves is a subjective exercise, but when you look at the tactical benefits, some stand out as clear winners, while others raise questions about the long-term strategy of the Houston Texans. At the top of the list, we have the strategic acquisitions that provide immediate depth and scheme versatility. These moves were essential to maintaining the competitive edge in a division that is rapidly improving. Nick Caserio has prioritized guys who can play multiple positions, a hallmark of the modern NFL approach to roster building, where flexibility is just as important as starting potential. However, when we move down the list to the more questionable decisions, we see a trend of high-risk, high-reward gambles that could either secure us a deep playoff run or leave us scrambling for answers if things go sideways. The analysis of these moves is not just about the names on the back of the jerseys, it is about the cap hit and the distribution of talent across the various position groups. We saw an emphasis on defensive front seven rotation, which is a massive upgrade, but the lack of movement in certain secondary spots is something that keeps analysts up at night. The emotional impact on the fan base is palpable. There is a sense of urgency that has not been present in Houston for years. Every move Nick Caserio makes is being scrutinized through the lens of our championship window, which is currently wide open. We must consider the historical context of how teams have historically built success, often by finding the right mix of veteran leadership and young, explosive playmakers. The team is clearly trying to balance these two worlds, but the ranking shifts daily as we get more reports from voluntary workouts and team activities. The most surprising element of this offseason has been the willingness of the front office to move on from established veterans in favor of cheaper, more versatile options, signaling a shift in the organizational philosophy. It is a bold approach that reflects a belief in the coaching staff's ability to develop talent rather than just buying it in free agency.
This shift is not without its detractors, but if the current trajectory continues, we may look back at this offseason as the turning point for the franchise. The ranking will likely change again before the draft, as the board continues to shift and unexpected opportunities arise for the team to capitalize on the market. As we evaluate the moves, we have to keep in mind the ultimate goal, a complete, balanced roster capable of winning in any environment, whether that is a ground-and-pound game or a high-scoring shootout.
As the dust settles on the initial wave of free agency, the focus for DeMeco Ryans has shifted toward identifying the internal free agents who are critical to maintaining the locker room culture that he has so carefully cultivated. There are 3 specific players who, in my estimation, remain high-priority targets for a reunion with the Houston Texans. These players understand the intensity and the high-standard environment that DeMeco Ryans demands on a daily basis, and their return would provide a level of continuity that is often undervalued in the modern era of constant roster turnover. The first player is a cornerstone of the defensive scheme, someone whose ability to read the quarterback's eyes and make adjustments in real time has been a staple of our success. Bringing him back is not just about his on-field production, it is about the leadership he provides in the defensive meeting rooms and his role as an extension of the coaching staff on the field. The second candidate is an underrated contributor on special teams and rotational packages, a guy who does the dirty work without looking for the spotlight. DeMeco Ryans values these players highly because they embody the grit and resilience that define this version of the Texans. The third player is a veteran offensive piece whose experience in high-pressure situations provides a necessary calming influence for the younger guys on the roster. When you look at the salary cap situation, re-signing these guys makes sense because their market value is lower than the potential cost of bringing in external free agents who would need time to adjust to our complex systems. The financial flexibility gained by keeping these guys in the fold could allow us to address remaining gaps during the late stages of free agency or through strategic trades. It is a delicate balance of managing the budget and keeping the core together. Many fans are wondering if we will see a homecoming for these veterans, and the feedback from the organization suggests that the door is definitely open. The loyalty factor is real, and for these 3, Houston has become a place where they have found a home and a role they cherish. If DeMeco Ryans gets his way, we will see these names back on the roster before the start of training camp, solidifying a unit that is already looking stronger than last year. The impact of retaining this core cannot be overstated. It provides a floor for performance that allows the team to take more risks elsewhere. It is a smart, calculated move that prioritizes team identity and consistency, 2 factors that are almost always present in championship-winning organizations. We are watching the situation closely, and as more information becomes available, we will be the first to let you know. The Houston Texans are clearly in a transition phase, but the moves being made by the front office and the leadership of DeMeco Ryans suggest a team that is not just rebuilding, but actively competing for a championship. From the risks associated with new arrivals to the careful retention of our core culture setters, every decision is being made with a long-term view of success. What do you think about the current direction of the team? Are we doing enough to capitalize on our window? Sound off in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update.